WKBN 27 First News, where your news comes first. Now in high definition.
Good evening, I'm Dave Sess.
And I'm Teresa Weakley. Vice President Joe Biden returned to the Valley for the first time since he and Barack Obama took office.
Now, Biden was here to boost someone else's campaign this visit, and that would be Governor Ted Strickland's.
Jerry Ricciuti begins our coverage tonight. He's live here in the studio. Jerry.
Dave and Teresa, for the last 6 weeks or so, Ted Strickland's been telling voters he's angry, and he's been dialing up his campaign rhetoric, hoping to reverse what's been a lead for his challenger. It also means bringing in some big-name firepower to excite the party faithful. Appearing in front of a crowd of 300 to 400, the Democratic ticket to lead Ohio says the race toward November 2nd will all come down to turnout.
We are coming to their door. We're going to be knocking and we're calling them on the phone. And if they want us to leave them alone, the only thing they got to do is vote.
We are on our way to a comeback. We cannot turn back. We will not turn back. And I thank the Vice President for being here to help me and all the other good Democrats.
Vice President Joe Biden pressed the crowd, largely made up of union members and party leaders, not to risk the accomplishments he says Democrats in Washington and Columbus have been able to accomplish.
I'm here to tell you that you're going to have that leadership for at least another 4 years, because he's going back to Columbus. He's going back to Columbus.
Mr. Biden repeatedly talked about what he called the clear choice between Strickland and his Republican challenger, former Congressman John Kasich.
It's between someone who has proven to be a fighter for the middle class, who has real vision for where he wants to take this state, and a guy who wants to repeat to a T exactly the economic policies that drove us in this ditch in the first place.
But nearly every poll taken since last summer shows Strickland trailing, in some cases by double digits. The Vice President urged the faithful to do what they can to get the vote out to turn the campaign around.
So we've got to step up our game. We've got to organize. We've got to keep making those phone calls. We've got to keep knocking on doors. We've got to get behind Ted with everything you've got.
Meantime, the Republican National Committee wants to remind voters of the nearly 150,000 Ohio jobs that have been lost since passage of the federal stimulus package that Governor Strickland endorsed. The RNC executives say, quote, between crafting the $814 billion stimulus and the $2.5 trillion government-run health care experiment, Biden has failed to give any consideration to the burden he has bestowed on Ohio's struggling economy, end quote. Teresa?
Thank you, Jerry. Spectators left the rally excited about the White House's focus not only on Ohio, but also the Mahoning Valley. From high school students to union members and local and state politicians, between 300 to 400 people packed Astro Shapes and Struthers to hear Biden speak and campaign for Governor Ted Strickland. Afterward, the VP's enthusiasm for this area really seemed to stick with the people that we talked to.
Well, I mean, I think it really shows how important the Ohio governor's race and the House races are to the vice president, the president, and how much they care about what happens here in Ohio. I mean, knowing that they're going to come here and they care about what we say and what happens in our valley, that makes a huge difference to me, and I know to other people that I work with.
Others who said the vice president's speech made them understand how crucial each vote is. Before the vice president took the podium in Struthers, he and Governor Strickland stopped by a favorite Youngstown hangout for lunch. Roxanne Seabest was at the Golden Dawn restaurant this afternoon, and she has that story.
From the moment he stepped foot into the Golden Dawn, everyone seemed to agree the Vice President of the United States quickly made himself at home.
I was surprised how relaxed everybody was instantaneously. It was like he was Uncle Joe.
And like any favorite relative, Mr. Biden made the rounds, holding babies, taking pictures, and sharing a few personal anecdotes.
I was happy to be the first one he came into, and he was signing the baseball, and his comment was, I was going to do this before I went into politics.
From baseball to golf, Valley residents say they saw a different side to one of the most powerful men in America.
I shook his hand. He noticed that I was wearing an Ursuline golf shirt, so he was complimenting me on wearing it, and I guess he golfs too, so it was really nice to learn a little bit about him.
Biden then sat down for lunch with Governor Ted Strickland, Congressman Tim Ryan, and 7 other individuals to learn more about our area. But first, the vice president ordered spaghetti.
No meatballs and a Diet Coke.
The vice president spent about an hour and a half here at the Golden Dawn. Unfortunately, though, he didn't get a chance to eat his meal here. He had to take it to go. Cynthia McWilson, a nurse who sat between Biden and Strickland, says the guest of honor actually spent most of his time talking rather than eating, hitting on most of the major issues facing our valley.
I guess I never expected him to stay as long as he did. I mean, very, very personable. Like I said, just very, very down to earth.
Making this a meal the group will never forget. In Youngstown, Roxanne Seabest, 27 First News.
We have much more information on the Vice President's Valley visit online. Head to WKBN.com and you'll find in-depth coverage of Biden's trip, including full-length videos right there on our homepage.
Before spending some time with the Vice President, Congressman Tim Ryan had a special delivery to make. He spoke with UPS workers in Girard. Then Ryan and a UPS delivery crew loaded into a truck, and that's when they headed for downtown Youngstown. Once there, the congressman himself delivered software pieces to Turning Technologies.
You know, we just want to highlight kind of the spin-off from these technology jobs that are happening down in Youngstown. So although they're just a software company, they are importing and exporting a lot of their product in and out that all uses UPS. So we can start to see the spin-off of the economic development we're creating through the business incubator in Youngstown.
Turning Technologies employs more than 100 people in Youngstown. An Ohio website now sends out alerts when violent offenders are up for parole. Currently on the site, Terrence Stargell and Roderick Suttles, both from this area. Stargell was convicted in 1985 for attacking a Youngstown woman. He could be released in November unless the parole board decides to hold a hearing. Suttles was convicted in 1987 for breaking into a Warren woman's home and attacking her. Trumbull County prosecutors want Suttles to stay behind bars.
It's without question a case that this office opposes his release, and the son and grandson are actively involved, and we will request a full board hearing in the event he would be released again.
And if you'd like to see the two men remain in prison, you're urged to contact the state parole board. Well, thanks to additional funding, the Trumbull County OVI Task Force hopes to ramp up enforcement over the next few months. The task force had about a dozen OVI checkpoints last year, and it wants all departments across the county to join in the efforts. That includes Newton Falls, which didn't take part last year.
We just recently got the Trumbull County OVI Task Force. We got like $139,000. That's to do checkpoints, additional saturation patrols, and also we're going to do some corridor projects this year. But we're trying to get as many of the police agencies participate in Trumbull County to participate, get some of that money that put some additional patrols out.
Newton Falls Council has to approve the appropriations in order for the police department to participate in the checkpoints. That vote hasn't been scheduled yet.
Don Guthrie is back from vacation today.
And he's wearing, he's nice tie there. Too bad it doesn't match the weather, which is a little bit cloudy. Your tie is nice and bright.
Unfortunately, it's not going to match the weather for probably a couple more days anyway. Looks like all this stuff sticks around to through about Wednesday into Wednesday night. That's the bad news. The good news is we get a very nice reward as we head into Thursday. Stops raining, skies start to clear out. Friday looks like an ideal autumn day, about 70 for a high. Beautiful evening for Friday night football, and that looks like it'll spill over into the weekend, but we have to get by a couple more wet days first. Not a good day for golf. There's the Lake Club overlooking beautiful Evans Lake at this hour. And here's the radar, which has been kind of wet for the last several hours and off and on since Saturday. More about all of that with my 7-day forecast in just a few minutes.
Still on the way tonight, despite the recent crime around St. Dominic Church, the parish's newest pastor refuses to quit. His story coming up in just a few minutes.
And later in sports, the suspension is over and Big Ben returns to work. More on the Steelers in just a few minutes.
Here's the Farmers National Bake Stock Report. 27 First News at 6. We'll be right back.